Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Louise Minchin and Charlie State.
Our headlines for you at 6 o'clock. After the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan, a defiant Joe Biden defends his decision to pull US troops out of the country.
I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw US forces.
More British troops are sent to help with the evacuation from Kabul airport after chaotic scenes yesterday.
The heartbreak of Afghan families here in the UK as they appeal for help from the international community.
People dying for no reason, people torturing for no reason. Why? Because they're human? I ask Great Britain to help them as a humanity. That's all I can say.
In sport, England lose the second test. After a thrilling and dramatic day of cricket at Lord's, India came out on top.
Jodie Comer tells us about her Hollywood breakthrough, how she mastered an American accent, and the time she got her mum's Sunday lunch on set.
Good morning. Today, once again, is going to be fairly cloudy, the cloud thick enough for some patchy light rain and drizzle, some murk on the hills and coasts, and limited sunshine. We've got it all, and I'll have more in about 25 minutes.
Very good morning. Tuesday, August the 17th. Our main story for you. President Biden has defended his decision to withdraw US troops from Afghanistan.
He admitted surprise at how quickly the Taliban seized power, but blamed Afghanistan's leaders for the defeat.
Military planes are reported to have begun flying again from Kabul airport this morning after yesterday's chaotic scenes where hundreds of Afghans tried to board aircraft. Our correspondent John McManus has the latest.
Breaking short his summer holiday, President Biden flew into Washington, D.C. on Monday to answer the charge that he had overseen a major foreign policy disaster for Afghanistan and perhaps the world. He admitted that events over the past week had caught his government by surprise, but he was in no mood to apologise.
We gave them every tool they could need. We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force. We gave them every chance to determine their own future.
Mr. Biden said the buck stopped with him, but...
So I'm left again to ask of those who argue that we should stay. How many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war?
As he spoke, thousands of miles away, the Taliban, armed and confident, had taken control of the streets of Kabul. Now able to walk in unopposed to government buildings. They are the government now. For many, it's a nightmare.
It's worse than what I thought, because they are searching to our addresses, and it's not only my life, but also my family life right now is in danger. We are facing more threat than before, because before our identity was not being clear to the Taliban, but right now they know our name, our face, our address, our phone numbers, everything.
Fearing the future, many Afghans are trying to leave in any way they can. Their desperation evident in these scenes at Kabul airport. The US says it's now secured the airport in order to evacuate Americans and other foreigners. Yet some people are managing to get out. This evacuation flight took off with an astonishing 640 Afghan refugees on board. Charities in the UK have urged the government to help refugees fleeing the Taliban to settle in Britain. Ministers say that more than 3,000 Afghan interpreters and their families who worked with UK forces have been resettled, and they're working to bring more to Britain. Details of a new scheme to welcome Afghan refugees to the UK is due to be announced in the coming days.
We're obviously a big-hearted nation. We've got the criteria for asylum. They're set in law. We work with the UN on that, and we're working very carefully at what kind of further commitment we might make.
The Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he wants the UN Security Council to urgently meet to discuss the international community's next steps. But China has already said it wants friendly relations with Afghanistan's new rulers, while Russia has said it believes the Taliban will restore order. John McManus, BBC News.
Well, let's get more from our political correspondent, Helen Catt, who's in Westminster for us. And we've heard that message from President Biden defending what he's done. What about the UK government?
Yeah, there's quite a strikingly different tone, isn't there, coming out of the US and from what we've heard from UK ministers in the last sort of 24 hours or so. If you think back to yesterday, there was the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, who we spoke to on this programme, in a different interview, getting quite visibly choked up about the situation. You also had Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, saying that it was not what we wanted, but we have to deal with that new reality. So there is quite a difference in tone in terms of dealing with that new reality, that the government focus it continues to be on getting British nationals, getting Afghans out of Afghanistan as quickly as possible. And that's why they've sent this extra 200 troops to go and patrol the airport at Kabul after the scenes that we saw there yesterday, to try and help make that happen. And the other focus is on making sure that it doesn't end up with a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. So there's a lot of international diplomatic things going on behind the scenes. Boris Johnson has spoken to the French President Emmanuel Macron. He's due to speak to other world leaders this week. There's going to be a virtual meeting of the G7 at some point, G7 leaders this week, as the sort of an attempt to form a global reaction to what's going on.
OK, Helen, thank you very much. Thank you.
So we will, just a reminder for you, 7:30 this morning, speaking to the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab at around 7:30, the reports that the airlift from Kabul airport is running more smoothly this morning. We'll try and get some clarity on exactly what's happening and how that operation is going. So 7:30 with the Foreign Secretary, that's coming up a little later on.
A tropical storm has hit the island of Haiti just 3 days after an earthquake which killed at least 1,400 people.
Further 7,000 were injured in the quake and hospitals are struggling to care for them, as our correspondent James Clayton now reports.
Many of these people were asleep when the earthquake hit, their homes caving in. It's hard enough to treat survivors of any natural disaster, but when the hospitals themselves are under fear of collapse, it makes it all the more difficult.
Well, this hospital is simply too unsafe to have people stay inside, so they brought everyone outside here and they've tried to place them under trees, under tents, to try and keep them a little bit cooler and out of the hot sun. But what you're seeing here is 48 hours after the quake. The doctors have run out of painkillers, they've run out of antibiotics, and there are major concerns about things like infection.
Elsie had just woken up when the earthquake hit. Her son has a serious compound fracture and needs to be taken to the airport to be lifted out. Seeing him in such pain is overwhelming. There simply aren't enough facilities to treat people in this remote part of the country. From the hospital, some of the injured are taken to this airport, waiting for a flight out to the capital, Port-au-Prince, like 19-year-old Tanya, who's pregnant.
So you woke up and basically tried to run out, but then the house collapsed on top of her?
She says her leg hurts and she has abdominal pain.
Most of the hospitals here are in need of the basics. IV solutions, bandages, medications, including antibiotics and pain management medications. They're in the same situation where they've run out. Overall, it's dire. You know, we're sitting here with 3 hospitals that are moving patients to the airport for transportation out. There's no coordination.
A tropical storm here is also preventing flights in and out of the capital. The people here need help, but at the moment, not enough is coming. James Clayton, BBC News, Lekki.
From today, plasma can be taken from blood donations in England to produce life-saving medicine. A ban on British donor plasma came into force in 1998 because of concerns about so-called mad cow disease, but it's now been ruled safe. Around 17,000 patients benefit every year from immunoglobulins, which are derived from blood plasma.
Investment in hydrogen energy to power vehicles and heat homes will create thousands of new jobs and reduce carbon emissions, according to a new government strategy which is launched today. Ministers hope the industry will attract billions of pounds in investment. It's thought the fuel could account for a third of the UK's energy use by 2050, but environmental campaigners say there should be more focus on renewably sourced hydrogen.
The town of Wrexham in North Wales is not known for its multi-billion-dollar film industry or legions of celebrity residents, but it now has a Hollywood-style sign. So it's not quite clear who erected the sign, but some locals linking it to the actors Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKenney, who recently brought Wrexham Football Club. So there you go, there's the sign.
Do you know, I've been past there a few times, not noticed it yet, but I will look out for it.
Letters are relatively modest size, is my judgment on that. But
you haven't seen the stack it's on. It's actually quite big.
Really?
Yes.
OK. We see the pictures again? Can we see it again? Just have another look, or is that possible?
You can argue if you want.
We'll have another, there we go. OK. Well, I suppose it's a bit hard to work out relative to the size of the hill behind. But there we go. It's a sign. There you go. It's there.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.